Hello everyone, Hiawatha Productions here. Welcome back to another video. As you can see, we are back on Train Simulator, going to do another quick drive. I'm thinking that for the next video, I will probably do a career or standard scenario, or I might do something free roam, but for the time being, we're just going to keep doing the quick drive since I've definitely been enjoying filming these, and I hope you guys have also enjoyed watching them. So, we are going to have a look through here and select an engine first. I think I know which one I'm going to go for. This time it is not a Caledonia Works engine. We are going to be driving this, the LNWR G2 by MeshTools. Well, developed by MeshTools, published by Dovetail Games. I believe this was actually the last engine that MeshTools actually created for Dovetail Games Train Simulator. So I see this engine as a bit of a piece of history for those of us who've enjoyed the game. Um, However, one thing I'd like to point out is the fact that this engine, as far as me and many other people are concerned, is the hardest steam engine to drive on Train Simulator. It is very fiddly. It's very realistic in terms of overall driving physics when compared to the real engine, so you have to be very careful when driving it. But yeah, so we are going to be driving it in a British Railways livery, and we will be on the Stainmore, Shap, and Eden. Actually, no, we're going to do a Weardale and Teesdale rail network. However, I can't decide whether or not I want to do a goods train or if I want to have it on a express train. I think we'll do the express train that I have. So realistically speaking, these engines would not have pulled express trains. They would have been responsible for heavy freight trains, but I have a new set of coaches, LMS Period 3 express coaches that I got off of Steam, and I personally really want to give them a little run. So we're going to reset the time to 8 a.m. We're driving in the fall this time. Last time we did summer. This time we're going to do fall, and it'll be at 8 a.m. So this will be basically just be a... We'll set the time to 9, actually. This is just going to be a early morning passenger run. So, yeah, like I said, the London and Northwestern Railway G2s were goods engines built by the London and Northwestern Railway. I'm trying to remember what year they were built in. I believe they were built in 1921. That's when construction on the class started, and then it continued into 1922 with around 60 or so members being built, if I remember correctly. Quite powerful engines. They're Power Class 7F with about 28,000 pounds of tractive effort. They were actually nicknamed Super D because originally they would have been the D class, but they were then rebuilt into, this design here. Hence the nickname Super D. I believe that's how the story goes. Someone will correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong. But, yeah, in any case, getting back to the engines themselves, withdrawal began in 1959 and was finally finished in 1964. Of the 60 members of the Class G2 080s, only one is preserved, and I believe it's been preserved by the National Collection, but is currently at, I don't know where it's at, actually. Last time I heard, it was at the East Lancashire Railway in operational condition. But yeah, it is owned by the National Railway Museum Collection. So, I'm going to turn on Auto Fireman, which is Control R. And before we actually get into driving this engine, I wanted to show you some of the whistles on it. So here's what the normal whistle sounds like. Then if we do control spacebar, I believe it plays a different sound. Or is it shift? It's shift. Gives it a little high-pitched blast at the end. Then if you press B, it gives you alternate whistle sounds as well. Then if you press tab, I believe it does another one, but typically you press tab to pass a signal at danger, hence why it plays a different whistle code. Right, so we're going to exit out of the HUD here. I'm going to turn off the sander. So we'll exit out of the HUD, and then we'll switch to these controls up here so you can see everything like the speed regulator and whatnot in the top left corner of the screen. We're going to let the passengers board and disembark. So this engine is significantly different in comparison to any other engines that you will drive. So it is one of several that has the reverser lock, so you're going to have to press E to open it. But instead of pressing, you don't press E, you hold down E. However, unlike other engines, instead of pressing W to move the reverser forward, you have to press S to put the reverser into forward gear. And then for the regulator, it's much the same. Instead of pressing A to have the regulator go up, you have to press D to have the regulator go up. Which is actually accurate as per the real-life prototype of this engine. The controls in the cab would have been flipped around in comparison to other designs. Not sure why. I'm not going to question it. But overall, I'm genuinely very pleased with this engine overall. It is definitely one of my favorites. It took a really long time to figure out how to drive it, and I'm still kind of trying to learn how to do it as we go along. Mostly with the water level. If the boiler is primed and you put the regulator to full way too soon, then you'll end up priming the boiler, the brakes come on, and then the regulator gets jammed wide open at 100%. You can't close it. I've actually had that happen while out on the road a couple of times, and I had to wait about 3-ish minutes before I could shut the regulator. So whenever I'd be doing a quick drive, I'd run past the station, I'd want to stop at and have to go on to the next one. All the same though, it's still great fun, this engine. I really, really like it. It comes in more liveries than this, so this is clean, British Airways black. There's also a intermediate weathering and heavily weathered option. Then if you look at the tender has the option to either look like this, or it can have a small little cab extension, so the cab is fully enclosed because of a little bit on the tender. Other liveries include LMS black, LMS maroon, LNWR black unlined, and LNWR black lined. I personally prefer the lined LNWR livery, and I do like the weathered version of the G2 and BR livery, but that's just me. Anyways, enough of the chit-chat. Let's go ahead and get on the move, shall we? Throttle forwards. So like I said, you have to be very careful when driving this engine because you do not want the boiler to end up getting primed. The sounds on this engine, in my opinion, are really, really nice. I also love how they have all the steam exiting out of all these different pipes and whatnot. Obviously the cylinder drain cocks are open. That looks fine. Smoke particle effects from the chimney is also fine, but also bear in mind my graphic settings are set kind of low so that I could actually handle the game on this laptop. And then if we look over here on the sides, you can see steam leaking out of all the joints and whatnot up front. Even right up here, that little pipe's got steam trickling out of it. I absolutely love that. I personally think that it looks especially nice on the heavily weathered version of the model, because it makes it look like in its old age it's just got steam leaking everywhere, which which I know that wasn't necessarily the intention behind it, but all the same, I think it looks very interesting. I also love how the engine plays sounds of the valve gear clanking as it rolls along and you shut the throttle. So yeah, we're on the Weardale and I think it's Weardale and Teesdale Network. I think that's how it's pronounced. Definitely one of my favorite routes, for sure. Very decent length. Got some nice, challenging gradients a little further down the line. And as you can see, we've got some of Matrix Trains' LMS Period 3 coaches behind us in Crimson and Cream and Maroon. I personally think that the cream color on the coaches is a little bit light. I don't know. I feel like Matrix Trains do a great job with making their liveries look as realistic as possible. And I don't know whether or not it's because of the way how I have my graphics set up, but the cream on the coaches seems a little too close to white, in my opinion. I feel like it should be a little bit more yellow-toned. Someone in the comment section will probably let me know if, you know, the livery is indeed accurate, but, you know, just something that I couldn't help noticing, especially since I've got the, what was it? I have the enhancement pack for the Riviera line in the 50s rolling stock by Golden Age Developments. Speaking of Golden Age Developments, I actually got their enhancement pack for this route, which included a track patch. So you have the Vulcan Productions track down here instead of the basic track that comes with the route on Steam. It looks a heck of a lot nicer than the base tracks that, you know, you get included with the pack. That is just my opinion. I prefer to have everything that I have on this game to be as realistic as possible, hence why I've started looking into replacements for some of the more basic models that I have. For example, I recently got the Precision Locomotive Developments Black 5 to, you know, mess around with a little bit, which is leaps and bounds better than the Black 5 that comes with the game. Next on my list is probably either going to be the Fourths Games 7F or the CW 7F. I haven't decided which one I'm going to go for as of yet. And then probably the PLD 8F. Speaking of Precision Locomotive Developments, I actually have their West Country class Streamlined Pacific. I actually purchased it about 2 days before they withdrew the product from their website. Very pleased to have that. I wasn't intending on getting it, period, as far as I was concerned, or at the very least, I didn't plan on getting it for a good little while, but I'm definitely glad that I did. It's an immaculate engine. Right, so we're slowing down a pretty good little bit here, which is not ideal. Having the throttle up at 100% is also not that ideal either, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that real quick and give us some more power by opening up the reverser a bit more. There we go. No idea if that's done the trick, but I guess we'll see in a moment. I wish that the regulator percentage up here actually matched what it showed on the HUD, because it would mean that I wouldn't have to keep switching between the two. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. I'm still messing around with the settings on OBS Studio in the game to get the right amount of, you know, microphone audio and game audio at the exact same time. So hopefully in the not-so-distant future I will have finally fully figured it out. Because I'd imagine that it's probably a little annoying having the game be significantly louder than me. Hopefully we can get a bit of speed up here. This is technically supposed to be an express, as per the head code. But we're not really moving at express speeds at the moment, even though it's a freight engine. Or goods engine, sorry, I forgot it. I forgot that this thing is British. I cannot call it by the wrong term. Then again, speed limit on this part of the line, I believe, is 45 miles per hour. So I wouldn't really be moving at express speeds in any case. I'd be moving more at commuter service speeds. Or, you know, express goods or something like that. I don't know, I'm just rambling. As I said, this is a very nicely detailed model, all things considered. If you look in here, you can see the joy valve gear doing its thing. This thing does not have Walshart's valve gear, it uses joy valve gear. I believe the LNWR Class 5 might also have the same type. Don't quote me on that. I'm just spitballing there. But you have all these separately modeled little pipes. You've got the rivets up here. You can see the suspension spring right there. Even right here, that little bit on the lubricator box. It's also animated on the model, which I think is so cool. I can't really show it now since we're on the move, but the reverser rod is also animated, which is a very, very nice little feature. You don't really see that. Well, you see that a little more commonly now on some of the more modern releases that we've gotten for Train Simulator DLC. But I know that for the longest of times, that was a nice little extra feature when this was released back in 2017. I've had it since, I'm gonna say probably 2023 would have been around the time when I would have gotten it, because I got the game back in 2022. Yeah, around 2022 is when I got the game, and then I got this about a year or two afterwards, and I know this because I was very miffed that I was having such a hard time driving it, but after looking at countless thread posts and whatnot, and watching other people take this thing out for a drive, I've just about finally managed to figure it out. I will say, one thing that I have noticed about the engine is that, sorry, I kind of blanked for a second. One thing that I have noticed about the engine, I mentioned the brakes coming on if the boiler got primed. That really only seems to be a more common issue whenever you're pulling a goods train. If you're pulling a passenger train, I've kind of noticed that it doesn't have as many issues since the air brakes are able to be connected. No idea what to make of that. I also don't know if I'm just, you know, going insane or something along those lines, but I'm not going to question it too much, because what do I know? Set that to 42%, and we'll put the throttle up to there. This incline isn't exactly an easy climb to make. Fortunately, I believe it is leveling out. I'd imagine that me putting water in the boiler is probably also, you know, one of the reasons why we've lost a bit of power, because putting water in the boiler lowers the boiler pressure a little bit. Once we get it back up to, I'm going to go for 80%, or sorry, 0.80. I think it should be fine for now. I absolutely love these engines. I discovered the G2A's existence after watching Sam's Trains do a review of the Bachmann G2A many years ago. This was probably back in like, oh gosh, 2016 maybe? I think that's when I remember it coming out. It was sometime around then. And then about a year afterwards sorry, not 20, I was gonna say 2017, 2018. No, you know what, it may have been, I don't know, 2017, 2018, around that time period, I had discovered Dark DJ Productions' channel, and he had finished production of Season 8 at the time, and I watched the entire series. I started at Season 8 because that's what was recommended to me, and then I watched the whole thing not long afterwards. But after watching the series, they introduced Colossus, the LNWR G2, and I became so enthralled with the class. And now that I'm thinking about it, I might actually be getting the LNWR 380 class so that I could complement it, because the 380 is basically this as a 084 tank engine, which is pretty cool. The 380 class I hadn't really taken much notice of for the longest of times until I saw it on Caledonia Works' website, and you know, did a little bit of research on it, and I just couldn't get over the fact that it's literally this in tank engine form. And even though it's inaccurate, I would love to have one in just the LNWR paint scheme without the LMS lettering on the sides. You know, because even though it's inaccurate, I still see it as a LNWR logo, and I can't unsee it in LNWR lined black. It just looks perfect. Technically, I was supposed to whistle before the crossing. I gotta drive on these routes and whatnot a little bit more so that I can actually figure out where and when I'm supposed to whistle and whatnot. Because I know you're supposed to look ahead, but you know, I can't exactly do that if I'm trying to get a good look at the engine from all angles. I know it's more interesting to see this thing from the front. There we go, we can go inside the coaches. So to do that, you press 5 on the keyboard. And I think if you do, yeah, if you do control left and right arrow keys, you can either move further back or further ahead in the consist. Now we've stopped because, I believe it's because the dining car is behind me and you can't actually go inside of it. But I believe if you start from the back of the train, and then do it. No. No, I lied. Oh well. We're gonna go back up to the front. We're doing alright on pressure. Gonna put some more water in the boiler then. We're handling the incline alright. This thing's a very sure-footed engine, all things considered, especially if you actually know how to drive it without getting it, you know, to stall. There we go. We're going to get some line side shots of this thing, and I'm hopefully going to be able to get some good screenshots. I think that was pretty decent. I require screenshots for the thumbnail. Gosh, I love this locomotive. We're passing through Pinton. I have no idea how to pronounce it. Now we've got a cloud of steam in our faces. Yeah, like I said, no idea how to pronounce that station name, but we're passing through somewhere. I guess that's all we really need to know, realistically speaking. We're a little over halfway to our destination at the moment, I believe. Got a pretty good pace going on right now. All I've really got to do is make sure that we don't surpass 45 miles an hour. I've had a pretty good streak of not getting called out for speeding, except maybe one time. I don't entirely remember. Oh. Oh dear. Oh, that's not good. So, I don't know if you can tell there, but I have accidentally primed the boiler. The water level is at 1.06, which is not good at all, and the brakes started to come on. So, now I've got to run at reduced throttle, which is fine, but I've got to be a little more vigilant at this point in time. Yeah, you do not want the boiler to be above 1 when driving this engine. I typically try not to keep it above 0.90, to be honest. That's just my personal preference. You don't technically have to do that, but I prefer doing it that way as it helps to ensure that, you know, this thing doesn't decide to go into emergency stop on you mid-journey. Once it does, it's really difficult to get the brakes to actually come off. I've actually never been able to get the brakes to come off after the train hits full emergency stop. I just have to quit whatever scenario it was that I was driving and just start over, which was quite annoying in my opinion. But I still love this thing all the same. It's such a joy to drive this thing. It's definitely something different, too, as most of the engines that I have at present are passenger engines. The only ones that I've downloaded the only ones that I've downloaded for DLC that are like pure freight engines are the K1, the 8K, the 2600, the Great Western Railway, 7200, 4200, and 5205. Those guys, and I think that's about it for freight engines that I've downloaded. I'm not counting the default stuff that comes with it. I'm not even going to count the Robinson 04 or the 4F that you get from the Netherfield to Nottingham route that I also have. But yeah, everything else that I have is either passenger or, in some cases, mixed traffic. That's just down to my views on the engines and also what I will have seen photos of them doing in real life, regardless of whether or not it was a main job of theirs to do so. Gradient's 1 in 100 here, so throttle's going up. Reverser is also going up. we're not slowing down anymore, which is good. Although, if I remember correctly, we're actually not too far off from the yard that we've got to pass through. Let's get another screenshot. Oh, little glitch there. Alright, speed limit still 45 miles per hour. That being said, we are coming up to station limits, where I believe the speed limit drops to 25 miles per hour. I'm gonna go way up ahead. Yeah, there's a curve here, so I believe we're supposed to... Oh no, I think it only drops down to 40, so I think we're fine. But once we get up here to the hill, I'm gonna have to go ahead and apply the air brakes on the train so that we can coast down the hill at a reasonable pace. I do not want to go flying down. I've done that a number of times on Riviera Line in the 50s towards the end of the line and derailed on a curve before I even made it to the station, only to crash into the Grange or castle that always departs from there way too late. I don't even know how that happened in the first place, because it's a single track line with no way for the engines in the station to pass by you unless you just happen to go to a different bay platform. Makes absolutely no sense in my opinion. I've turned the reverser down just a little bit. So we are slowing down somewhat. However, as far as I'm concerned, that is fine, because we are going to have to start slowing down, or, you know, just going at a slower pace on our way down the incline. Beautiful engine. Where are they gonna put me this time for the next view? Right here. Another good opportunity for a screenshot. Ooh, that's a keeper. Alright. Regulator has been shut. We're slowing down a little bit, which again I consider to be a good thing since we've got a incline to go down. Alright. Hitting the downhill slope. Now. Yep, we're increasing in speed now. Gonna go ahead and shut the injectors. It's got some great cab details. Have the little bottles of oil right there. Got a bucket. Little coffee/tea things. I have no idea what they're called. The seat can be pulled out, pushed back in. Very cool little feature. I believe the cab roof has a latch that can come open. Or am I thinking of something else? Oh yeah, that opens. Nice little feature there. Opens and shuts. I thought there was a light in the cab somewhere. Maybe I'm thinking of a different engine. There's plenty of engines, most of them by Caledonia Works, that have lights in the cab. But there's a chance that this may not be one of the non-CW engines that has a light in the cab. Either way, it's fine. I don't know how well you can see that, but they've got little cutouts in the cab. I don't know whether or not that's a glitch in the game where there's supposed to be riveting detail up here. I honestly think it might be, you know, just like missing riveting detail. No idea what to do about that if that is the case, but either way, I don't particularly mind too much, you know, because everywhere else on the engine is top-notch. As you can see, the sun is very much high in the sky at the moment, and now we are good to go ahead and put some power down and finish off the rest of this journey. Still on a little bit of a downhill slope. It's 1 in 170 down this way. I wish that there were some other line side views here and there on the route. Would definitely make for a little bit of variety here and there, but what can you do? Alright, so we're coming up to the end of the route, so I'm just going to stay quiet while we enjoy the rest of this little quick drive session. Alright, so we made it to our destination. We are most definitely not fully in the platform. If we have a look over here, half our train didn't even make it. The brakes on this engine are definitely quite strong. So, you know, be very ginger when applying the brakes on this engine. We're gonna exit here. And that's going to be it for today's little quick drive video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below what other engines or routes you may want me to drive, and if I have it or think that I can afford it, then I most definitely will. Anyways, this is Hiawatha Productions signing off. I will see you guys on the next one.